Hello again, everybody. I'm so excited to be back on stage for our next panel, which is on the new science of leadership. So we'll be talking today about this new approach to leadership for our moment of rapid change, technological disruption, and changing employee expectations. So here to join me in talking about it are Amanda Litman and Susan Chapman-Hughes. So Amanda is the co-founder and president of Run for Something, which recruits and supports down-ballot candidates from diverse backgrounds to run for office. They've already elected over 1,500 elected leaders across this country, including my very own city councilwoman in LA, which is very cool.
Thank you.
This year, Amanda also published When We're in Charge, which is the next generation's guide to leadership, which you can find out on Charter's bookshelf. And I believe that if you'd like your copy signed, Amanda.
I would be delighted.
Yes, perfect. Susan is the co-founder and managing partner of Acumentis. She's also an independent board member at the Smucker Company, which does, in fact, make my favorite jam. And she's also a board member at Toast, which is the restaurant point of sale system, not another ingredient in PB&J's. Susan has also advised both pre-IPO and public companies as they scale their businesses. So I'm super excited for both of you to share your insights, and let's jump right in. So let's start with the title of this panel. It's the new science of leadership. But I want to take a second to talk about the old science of leadership. What for you both defines the old model, and when did you realize the approach didn't cut it anymore? Amanda, we can start with you.
Okay. I'm going to offend some of you, and I preemptive caveat apology to all of it. I like to define the old style of leadership as like the boomer brain. You sort of know what I mean when I say my boss is such a boomer. Like they think going to therapy is for weaklings. They think work-life balance is a joke. They don't understand why you can like run a remote work, because obviously you have to come into the office to be more productive. They don't understand how you could build a real interpersonal relationship over Slack or Teams or chat. They don't understand why young people like want to log off at 5 p.m. and have a life outside of work. They either overshare, like my great aunt on Facebook, or they undershare Beep Bop Robot, one of two ends of the spectrum. That is a style of leadership that no longer works for today. A majority of millennials, according to the Glassdoor survey, make up managers now. Or rather, a majority of managers are now millennials. Gen Z makes up about 1 in 10. And that is only going to become more and more true as time passes. And millennials and Gen Z have a very different relationship to work, to each other, to institutions, to power, to communication, to humanity and authenticity in a way that changes how you show up in the workplace, and also is shaped by what those folks demand of their leadership. So boomer brain is out. What I call next generation leadership, which is broadly a millennial and Gen Z style, but can be embodied by anyone of any age, and sorry to Gen X, don't blame me, blame the boomers. It is, I think, what comes next.
Well, as a proud representative of Gen X up here on the table, where are my people? Where are my people?
Classic Gen X here.
It's really interesting because I think because I have had the benefit of being with really awesome leaders for my entire career. When you talk about what's old leadership versus new, I don't think the framing is really old versus new. I think it's really good versus bad, because I think there have been excellent leaders that have been around for a long time. And what are the qualities of those leaders? Those qualities are they're very empathetic. They wouldn't ask you to do something that they're not willing to do themselves. They are the people who are going to lead by example. They're the people who build leaders, so they recognize and take very seriously their responsibility to grow leaders. They are willing to use their gravitas and sponsor people in the organization. They also have a broader view and are very grounded. So I have this theory that I call you have to earn your way to the ground, because the more senior you get, the more people put you on a pedestal and they treat you differently. And so really great leaders are those people who can still earn their way back to the ground. And I think that is the leadership style that has just been really good. I think it's probably just more rare in the past. Yep. But I think it's going to be the thing that is going to be required going forward.
That makes sense. And Amanda, what for you defines this new model of leadership?
I think everything Susan said is really part of that. I think a big thing is understanding the way that both the demands of the new workforce and the way that technology has changed how we interact with each other affect how hard it is to show up as that new style of leadership. Like all of the traits you described, true universally, in this moment, they're harder than ever to actually do. I was listening to, I think, Isabel from the Financial Times earlier talking about like how to show up on LinkedIn or online as yourself. And it's so funny to me because, you know, I'm 35 years old. I've been thinking about how to curate a public profile online since I was like figuring out what to put in my AIM away message when I was 13. That is a challenge that every boss I've ever had before never had to deal with. It is a very different conception of how you use these modern tools and tactics, modern tools and communication forms to really think about how you are present for your team and externally.
That makes sense to me. And I'm very excited for our panel later today when we're talking really about building influence online and within your organization. I wanted to ask you both, as we're thinking about this new model of leadership, who is for you someone you've worked with or admired from afar that embodies these qualities of the new type of leadership?
I mean, one of the greatest leaders I've ever had the opportunity to work for is Kenneth Chenault. He was the CEO of American Express for many years. I always, respect Ken for a lot of reasons, but one of the things is, once you get to that seat, some leaders are just arrogant and, don't connect, but he connects with all kinds of people. Even to this day, he still connects. I think also another characteristic is that he enjoys spending time with people of all ages and really tries to connect with young people. I think those are the things that keep you young, hip. I try to mentor young people, but I also try to be mentored by them. And so I don't take it for granted. Yeah. I'm also very just intellectually curious. So anytime there's a new gadget that comes out, I'm on it, right? I mean, I got them all in my purse. Everybody knows. But I also, I'm also like a member of the Old Mamas Club. I got a 9-year-old. And so I have to be hip to know what's going on with her. But that actually makes me a better leader, and it makes me able to coach and counsel people more effectively because it is different. The way they engage with life is just different. The expectations are different. And so, what I think is required is for, when you see these leaders who can actually go through year after year, decade after decade, and still are relevant, I think is what makes a great leader.
Absolutely. Amanda, what about you?
As a political person, I look to politicians. And I think in particular in this moment, Zoran Mamdani, putting aside ideology, you don't have to agree with them on everything, is embodying what I think a next generation leader looks like. And every business leader could take some cues from him. He understands that leadership is not about the leader, but it's about the people being led. He understands how to be authentic, but with boundaries. There's actually a lot we don't know about his personal life because he doesn't talk that much about his personal life, and that's a good thing. He does not bring his full self, he brings his real self. He very clearly has a set of value systems that he holds true and that is consistent through the vision that he has laid out. He takes the work seriously, but not himself that seriously. He is very adept at modern communication. And he does so in a way that doesn't rely on like memes and bits. It takes people very seriously as someone deserving of information. He provides a lot of insight and transparency into how he is operating, without necessarily giving lots of space for input, which is a discernment that I think can come. And he's very clearly open to feedback and to learning and to changing and to hearing how he can improve. I think that is what you are going to see more and more from the leaders that come.
And Susan, I wanted to talk to you about what are the stakes of not developing this style of leadership and what is possible when leaders do. I know.
The stakes are people won't follow you, right? They'll begrudgingly, they'll be talking about you behind your back. 10 years from now, they'll be talking about who was the worst boss, and your name will be at the top, right? I mean, we all know. You know who your worst boss is, right? And you think about what are the qualities that made you go, I can't stand that person. If they walked in here today, I might want to try to punch them in the face, right? Or who is the person who actually saw you? Who's the person who recognized who you were? And, for me, I had the benefit of having a most amazing mother who was just a wonderful giver, who recognized that unselfish giving was a part of leadership. And so she always brought that to the table. So I've always, as a leader, tried to bring that to the table, to actually see people for who they are, to really know who they are, to know what's going on with their lives and their kids. You can't really help lead people if you're not investing. And I think that's one of the things about new leadership that's required is it takes more time, right? But while it may take more time, the benefits are amazing because that means that people are looking out for you as you get more senior. That means that people are looking out for the organization that they're bringing. They're willing to take more risk in the organization because they have psychological safety. And I think that's part of the role of a leader.
Absolutely. And how can current leaders help younger leaders develop these skills and practice them as they take on larger teams?
Well, the first thing that they can do is actually do it themselves, right? You'd be surprised at the number of leaders who do not lead by example. They say, do what I say, not what I do. And people are watching you, and so therefore, if they see that you're not living up to what you said you're going to do, then they're not going to follow you. So the first thing is that. The second is actually like invest in people. So get to know them, figure out what it is that, when you see somebody who's really talented, who, may not have carried the bag or, fits exactly the profile, then take a risk on that person and help them, put them in a role that everybody said, hey, I would never think of that person in that role. Encourage them, support them, and give them what they need to be, to be successful. That's what good leaders will do for developing the next generation of people.
Absolutely. Amanda?
I agree with all of that. And I would add in explaining the why is so exhausting. Anyone who I have a 2-year-old who constantly is like, why? Mama, why? Mama, why? And actually reminds me a lot of some of my younger employees who are also always like, why? But being able to explain that and to articulate, like, why did I give this feedback? Why did I make these edits this way? When we step out of a meeting, like debriefing with them, here's how I approach that. Here's why you may have heard me describe it in this way, in this context, in this one, in another. Like, they're not mind readers. And doing so allows them to really learn as they watch you practice. Because a lot of the things that we do as senior executives, like, we just do it because it feels right. Like, it's backed up by years of experience and discernment and expertise, but also because it's just like, it feels right. And having to explain that to someone really helps them understand and grow those skills themselves. Now, to what Susan was saying earlier, part of the reason a lot of leaders don't do this, a lot of the older models of leaders, is because it sucks. It's exhausting, it's hard. I think it's worth doing anyway.
You brought up something really interesting around feedback. And, you always hear feedback is a gift. Feedback is a gift, but if feedback is coming from your own perspective and what you want, then it's not good feedback. If you actually are investing in being empathetic in the way you give feedback. I once had a manager who gave me all of this feedback, and I said to her, I was like, I could see how this makes you comfortable, but like literally has nothing to do with helping me grow as a person. Like, what exactly on this paper is going to help me be a better, fill in the blank? And she couldn't answer the question.
Well, and not to continue going back and forth here, but I think this is also one of the challenges with sort of the rise of like the want to be an authentic leader and to be yourself in the workplace. It's like, actually, my job as a leader is not to make it about me and not to deliver feedback in the way that I want to hear it or I need to hear it. It's to be responsive to them. So navigating that tension is part of the challenge.
And I'd love to ask you both, so what does a good piece of feedback look like? What's a model that everyone in this room can use?
The first is that you can clearly articulate what it is that person is doing well and what that person is not doing well. Like, really give clear examples. The second piece is you can give them real opportunities or real feedback on what it is they can do better. And the third is to open the door for them to say, okay, well, like, listen, this is the feedback that I'm giving you. You could actually be better at public speaking. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to enroll you in Toastmasters. I'm actually going to take once a month or once a quarter to sit with you before you have to give a presentation and go through it with you. And then I'm also going to open the door for you to go give more speaking opportunities or have more speaking opportunities in other places. I mean, very clear. This is what you're not doing very well. This is what, I'm going to do to help you, what the plan is for you to do better, and this is what I'm going to do to help you. And I think if you use that model, it helps people go, okay, well, you're invested in me, you see me. You're not telling me something that just because, you don't like me or, Also take the emotion out of it. I think that's also really important. Like, pick your spots. you can, if you know people really well and you're reading their body language, they'll let you know whether or not they're willing to absorb the feedback. So, you know, the best way to also get people to take feedback is to have a relationship with them. Imagine if somebody you don't know very well, who is not invested in you, I see a lot of head shaking, right, is giving you feedback, then you're kind of like, yeah, okay, you don't really know me, right? But if somebody who has invested in you, who sees you, who is, you know, talking to you on a regular basis, who engages with you, is giving you feedback, and it follows that model, then you feel good, like, okay, well, this person is really invested in me. I'm willing to do that work.
Plus one to all of that, and often the best feedback is one that makes me as the leader a little bit uncomfortable to give because I know they're not going to like me. I think, or that they might interpret it in a way that can feel hard or personal, even if it is never personal, and ideally it is not. I often have to sit with that, and I know especially for people who've been socialized to be people pleasers or just like really want folks to like us, it's not my job for them to like me. It is my job to steward the whole of the organization towards our goal. And if I'm working in service of our goal and taking a stand for things and being clear-eyed about why that feedback is being given, I can armor myself with integrity and be fine if people don't like it or don't like me in particular. And I think that ability to sit with that discomfort, I know if, at least for me personally and for so many of the leaders I talked to when writing the book, because I talked to more than 130 executives across multitudes of sectors like politics, tech, nonprofit, teachers and faith leaders and doctors. And the thing I heard over and over again were themes that echoed was often, you know, like they're not going to like me here, and I kind of have to be okay with that.
That makes sense. Something I love about both of these answers is it's really about why that feedback matters, whether that's for the person's career, whether that's for the organization and its goal moving forward. And I think that's really great. As a final question, I'd love to just speed round. So I know everyone in this room is a leader on some level or in some way. What is one thing that they should be practicing or one skill they should be exercising that they can use when they leave this room? Amanda, we can start with you.
I think being a little bit more online might be something to think about. I think what Isabel was saying earlier about external communication is internal communication is a big part of that. But I also think a lot of leaders do not understand that your employees are absolutely Googling you. They're seeing everything you've ever posted. Even if you're super locked down and super private, they're absolutely going to find that weird thing you posted on Yelp 6 years ago or the bizarre Reddit forum you've engaged in, because someone is curious and someone is searching, and being really intentional about making sure that the story you are telling online, and that includes both like your public social media profiles, but how you engage in Slack, how you sign your emails, which emojis you use, how you have executive presence over a Zoom room, that all of that is cohesive and intentional. But there actually isn't a right way or a wrong way to do this. There is a thoughtless way and a thoughtful way. And if you are thoughtful and understand who you are in the story you're trying to tell, you can set yourself up for success and also ensure that your team has a better relationship with you based on the full picture of you that they're seeing.
I mean, for me, it's go see your people. Go spend time with them. You know, do the unexpected. So show up with donuts when you know a team has to, you know, come in really early for a presentation. Or if they're staying late to do a presentation and you don't really have a role in that, you stay late with them. And you go out and you get the food and you do the things that they need in order to be successful. I think anytime you do that, it just earns you the reputation and the trust for them that will last for you for a lifetime.
Absolutely. Well, thank you both so much.
Thank you.